To atone for my sins against humanity and Haru Urara, this is the deliverance of my repentance. If you have been playing Uma Musume and wanted to find a guide to break down every single aspect, you would have probably stumbled upon this document before, the You Are a Time Capsule, both the JP and the global version. When my chat told me that it's an over 150-page guide existed just to play Uma Musume, I didn't believe them at first because it's just a silly horse-girl gacha game. How can it be that deep, right? Right? Hey guys, UmaPokke here. This will be the first big guide content to essentially cover everything regarding how the hell do you play Uma Musume, and there are already tons of useful guides out there as we have just passed through, probably going towards the second monthsary, so I kind of want to highlight the most important aspects, at least to me as someone that just started playing on the global server and learning everything from scratch. I'm currently clocking over 200 hours across both Steam and my phone, so 1 month later, my personal experience and understanding of the game, I hope to condense and summarize everything within this 150-page Uma guide for you guys today. It is a very long document, but I promise it won't be a yet fest because I will only focus on the most important beginner stuff, meaning PvP, SR or SSR breakdowns will be for another time. Do subscribe and like UmaPokke's channel if you enjoy the content over here. By the time this video is up, it will be the Super Creek banner, and I know this particular topic was quite divisive among the community, and it ultimately boils down to this. No matter how much you reroll for the best deck in Uma Musume is still a witter game, but with your real life wit as well. A good trainer with a worse support deck will still beat a bad trainer with a better support deck. Assuming they know what they're doing with the tools given to them, if re-rolling in Uma Musume is going to ruin your enjoyment for the game, then there really is no point in doing this in the first place, because re-rolling is also not recommended for casuals who just want to take the game leisurely, because if you think about it, every support card's effectiveness is only as strong as how often you even use them in your trainings as well as careers, which in turn builds better Umas. Someone willing to slam their TPs for minimum 3 career runs a day with real Uma parents will get far more than someone who only plays 1 career a day over time. The more locked in you are, the more important it is for you to reroll. Now, assuming that rerolling will not hinder your enjoyment, here is a reason behind doing this in the first place. So for example, the current banner is gonna be the Super Creek banner. It is pretty manageable because it is gonna be either on a 0.5 or 0.75% rate up with a 3% SSR rate, much higher than mainstream gacha games such as Hoyo's 0.6%. So taking a look at this picture over here, you really only need 2 or 3 copies to start the game, and you can spam from your pools and cares to get all the way to 200 pools, which is extremely doable for a new player. Then get a 3rd copy using the spark system from the banner itself. Future options like limit break crystals and SSR selectors will be implemented, so once you have at least 3 copies, it is only a matter of time before you get a max deal for any support card of choice during your reroll. And most importantly, every single card is going to be added to the regular banner whenever a new banner comes out, which means that even if you did not manage to get every single copy you want in this particular banner, you might just land them in the future going forward from a random ass spook. So with rerolling out of the way, I will now blitz down probably one of the more important aspects, which is going to be the progression check in Uma Musume, at least for the past 1 month. If you're new, aim for these, and if you're a day 1 global player like myself, feel free to measure your progression over here. Number 1, you do want to reroll if you care about meta, otherwise you don't really need to care about it that much. Number 2, learn the basic training guide, which we're going to be talking about just in a second. And number 3, do not level cards you do not use. Even though you do get some team trial score multipliers, it is extremely small, and the SBs and monies gap in this game is very real, especially in the early game once you approach the 1 month mark. The gold ship event that we currently have right now is going to help us quite a bit with the 1.2 million, but in the future when we want to get potential 5, we want to get more SSR cards, you know, why want to pull for the Super Creek, you want to pull for Right Shower, it is going to add up to a tremendous amount of cost. Number 4, use this tool to search for good friends. Uma Musume is also going to be a friend game, and having good friends is not negotiable because it literally only takes you 10 seconds to search for one, and it drastically improves the training experience for both the whale Umas as well as the whale support cards. As a baseline, look out for max limit Muteki, Super Creek, Kira-san, or Fine Motion. For sparks, 9-star stamina power with medium to help with the upcoming champions meet, or dirt Umas to help dirt Uma proficiency because Haru is the only natural dirt 8. Include the URA finale scenario if there are any, so Maruzensky, Rudolph, Ryan, and Ogri are also some great natural parents. What do I mean by that? Don't worry about it. Number 5, trophy and achievement hunt for all races to the one-time carrot clears. You can check the grade icon on the top right to see if you have set trophy, but this is not really a rush unless you really want to pull the 200 banner. So for example, in this case, if you really want to hit the 200 for the Super Creek banner. Number 6, don't transfer Umas early on since you probably don't know who is good. For now, keep everything until you hit 200, which will take you a very long time. Then toss all of the double 1-stars on blue and pink, and keeping all of the 3 blues and 3 pink on distance. Note, for this particular instance, be sure to look out for any particular white sparks Umas, which despite having a poor pink as well as blue, if they have an extremely good amount of natural white sparks, you also want to keep them. For more details on this, please check out this previous video where it comes to the most evil tip for inheritance farming. Also note that when I'm going to be filtering by sparks, remember that it only shows the initial spark and not your grandparents, so sometimes a 2-star wit may still be usable if you use a 6-star stamina or 6-star power with good distance pings as well. Number 7, SRs with more dupes are often stronger than SSRs without dupes. So notable SRs is gonna be this over here. I'm just gonna blitz through them. For the speed department, it's gonna be Sweep, Tosho, Aishin, Flash, King, Halo. For wit department, it's gonna get Agnes, Daiwa, Sunday. For stamina, it's gonna be Top Gun, Manhattan Cafe. And for power, it's gonna be Hishi, Amazon. Number 8, Gold Ship, Vodka, Daiwa, Urara, as well as Bakshin is a very solid starting team. For story as well as time trials progression, assuming no other Umas is gonna be in your deck, you can kinda ignore the story SR cards for now and try to make the team trials class unlock criteria, as it unlocks more slots and a ton of carrots and friendship points when I'm gonna be progressing. We'll be making more of this content in the future, but this is going to be the current team I'm using for classics. Number 9, join a club that's gonna be active for a minimum of 100 club points, more if you donate. I personally yoink up the Agnes shards for a 3-star, but in the future, if we have any notable 3-stars, we can kind of conserve them as well. And lastly, do not slam a TPs unless there's an event going on and you have not maxed it out yet. It is more efficient to train Will Uma parents, so exceeding 3 times a day is only just for players who already have a very strong foundation for themselves or they know exactly what they're doing. Also, burning out in Uma Musume is a very real thing, so if you're gonna be playing way too much, especially when a career takes more than half an hour, you're probably gonna want to go next. A couple of bonus tips for brand new players: you do want to save the 3-star selector until the mission complete to prevent dupes. Otherwise, pick Oguri for all purpose, Maru or Taiki Shadow for the upcoming champions meet. Daily shop, you pretty much only want to buy the clock. You might feel tempted for the SP, but the economy balances out more in the career runs because it's 1 to 20 for the SP instead of the usual 1 to 6. In the future, when we have better scenarios and economy, you can also get parfaits and shards if you need it. Meta Umas are also not going to be as strong as meta support cards, and any Uma can be a god with proper training. And with that, speaking about training, we are going to jump straight into the basic training guide. I'll skip the Banner Shadows and Hood Fu for now, since this guy is going to be a benchmark for everything you need to know about playing the game first. Then you will understand why the cards and Umas are strong or weak next time. If you need help on the basics like stats and team building, kindly check out this video, especially if you're coming from a mainstream gacha such as Hoyo games. Regarding basic training or how do you play career events, it's split into 2 main portions: the preparation as well as the execution. Preparation is everything before the career itself, setting your objective on what Umas to raise and what steps to look out for. You can also view this as how do you exactly spend on TP, and this is a pretty big topic by itself, especially depending on what Umas you're using. But generally speaking, 4 speed 2 stamina or 3 speed 3 wit are my most common decks. Summoner Slowing and Limit Break 0 Tazuna for the comfort. For example, my TP spending cycles revolve over the first 3 runs using my Whale Uma for 3 Spark Farming runs, then everything extra goes into improving Team Trials Uma. For this current period of time, I am also preparing up for the upcoming champions meeting in less than 2 weeks, but outside from that, every single time you're gonna be going for using your TP, do keep an objective in mind always. For this coming champions meet, me personally, I am running for a 2 debuffer hyper carry gold shipper, but I'm gonna be waiting for more gold to raise up our potential, as well as maybe putting a little bit more on the super quick banner to get my own max limit break super quick, or at least as close as possible. Now, after the preparation comes the execution, which is during the career where you have an inheritance and support cards locked in. First, use this to help with events you're unsure of if you want to be absolutely efficient for every single scenario, as every single good Tolai now is gonna do. Aside from making the correct choices in these events, here is a nice flowchart from the document itself, which will be very useful for every scenario in Uma Musume and not just URA. I personally prioritize friendship gauge in year 1, year 2 locking in the main stats being either speed or stamina, and year 3 going for more G1 raises when possible. Of course, if you're gonna be doing this for inheritance farming, then you also want to try to run as many similar G1s as possible for both of the Umas in order to raise your compatibility, as well as just generally getting more skill points as well as potential to get the white sparks. For this particular point, kindly check out this video once again, because I think this is a very good tip for inheritance farming generally speaking. Hints can also be very useful because they give RNG skills that may or may not come back again. An excellent example being the Yaino Muteki power cards level 5 hints every single time you're gonna prop the hint, which is gonna be crucial for champions meet, because whenever you get one of the skills, the next skills will not appear, but this is only specific to Yaino Muteki. Since you cannot really guarantee this every single run because it's ultimately still due to RNG, I will always keep an eye out for hints as possible. This is also very useful for Umas with particularly low friendship, giving them an additional 5 per training with your hints. Weird training is just like a free friendship boost, and I almost always pick Wit with 2 supports in early game unless another stat has 3 or more. That being said, don't use Wit as a replacement to rest. That's like someone replacing showering with using a deodorant. Mood management is mostly a gamble depending on Umas and events, but getting to great is always worth it because there's a 1.16% multiplier, sometimes going up even higher depending on your support cards. I personally rely on Killa-san Blacks, Raise Wins, and URA's RNG events to boost mood, only opting for outings at the very start of the game if no other sets have 2 or more support cards. If you want to play it safe, feel free to guarantee great as early as possible, assuming your stamina isn't maxed out. By the end of the day, you're still gonna be having a lot of RNG issues such as you getting sick, you fail your training, all that kind of stuff, but your job as a Torena is to maximize the probability of your successful runs in every single career. Some bonus advice now when it comes to training in careers, at least from my experience. Number 1 being unlocking skills from hints will lock them from future appearances, so it's pretty good if you're hunting for a specific hint, which is gonna be why I call hint sniping back in the previous Nice Nature guide. For SSR chain events, they actually may or may not finish if if you have too many SSR cards in the same deck. So if you're going to be running a full deck like your Silent Suzuka, Kita-san Black, Satoru Diamond, as well as Super Creek, you might get a chance where, for example, your Super Creek will not trigger the swinging Maestro, or your Kita-san Black will not trigger the Professor of Curvature, right? So it's just something to keep in mind. Another thing is gonna be the extra training is a free energy almost 90% of the time, unless it is already maxed or you need the Director Friendship to hit green. Generally speaking, when you're doing races, slamming front runner would prevent you from getting boxed in career because you almost always outstep the enemy. Unless you're gonna be failing the stamina checks, then go with Late Surger because that has the least amount of stamina consumption. Now, do take note that for this particular point, this event such as this current Gold Ship event actually makes the races a lot more challenging compared to usual. So if you're gonna be training, for example, an Ace Uma or even an Inheritance Uma where you want to slam G1 races, you might want to consider not doing this Gold Ship training in order to reduce the difficulty for yourself and only coming back to this Gold Ship if you're confident that you can get rid of the Imanis eventually over time. When it comes to G1s, they would give you a random 13 stat and 60 skill points amplified by your raise bonus. This is going to be your main way to obtain many skills in the run's end product, assuming that you can have enough stats. This is especially important for team trials, but less so for CM where it isn't as dependent on how many skills you get, but rather the quality skills you're going to be obtaining. And speaking of races, fan checks on year 3 are 60k by early February, 70k by early April with Green President Bond, 120k by the late December to upgrade your Uma's ultimate. Year 2 November 50k gives you 20 wisdom and 20 skill points plus a user skill which you never ever take, and 100k gives you another 30 skill points. While at the end of year 3 is going to be 240k fans if you get another 30 skill points from the director. So if the foundation set, URA scenario and the Uma themselves are something you have to play more to get a feel of, it is literally like riding a bicycle. The more you play, the more you know when you should be resting, when it's summer, what to pick for the New Year's, which is always going to be energy ideally, as well as when to raise G1s and when to hit Fangos. So for example, I'm way more familiar with Taiki Shadow compared to Grass Wonder, rest in peace, allowing me to play her career like in the back of my hand, running which races, going for which events, and getting the stat I want across the board is much easier compared to Umas that I'm going to be unfamiliar with. Although the event planner helps, playing with your specific Uma to the point where you do not need a helper anymore feels a lot more comfortable. Jumping into pretty much our final segment, as we know, Umas have two objectives in their entire life: racing and inheriting. By the way, check out this guy after you're done with this video as the follow-up to learn the most evil tip for inheritance farming, and I could not stress this enough, and this will be the more basic version. This will also be the last segment of this entire over 150 page guide, since everything else in the guide is more related to individual Umas, PvP preparations, and skill explanations, which frankly speaking, you don't have to worry about it for now. Inheritance is far more important because it's the benchmark for all Umas, and honestly, the basis of inheritance are more or less explained everywhere. So here's how I would actually go ahead and play around this mechanic. Think of this like your relic farming or the main stat subset hunting from your mainstream gacha games. Firstly, you have to follow the order of inheritance. Before your own parents, they have to come from the grandparents, and Umas are no exception. You build your Umas from the grandparents first, followed by your parents, followed by the final raised Uma in PvP. This also means that when you first start out, you're not actually hunting for parents first, since their grandparents will most likely be of worse quality even if you brought a whale Uma, which is why raising your grandparents with your great-grandparents would be extremely useful via this tip over here, which I cannot stress enough. Next, now that you understand that you have to start inheritance farming from your grandparents first, there are two main types of Umas in Spark farming: general parents and specialized parents. Here is an example of a god tier general parents with 9-star stamina and 3 URA raw. Now the general parents are the baseline 9-star Umas with any combination of blue sparks, and that should be your first objective. This is probably the most common type of parents and grandparents are going to be coming across, especially in the early game when we're just getting started with the game. Ideally, they come from stamina and strength, as many others have mentioned, since you're going to be spamming speed training basically all the time, especially with Kita-san Black, and guards and wizards are just not that useful for now. Power 9-star is technically a little bit better than stamina 9-star because we have access to extremely strong stamina cards like Super Creek, and if you pull for Kita-san Black, Satoru Diamond, as well as an SR options like Manhattan Cafe and Top Gun, so power will usually be the lacking department with only Vodka, Ishi Amazon, and Yano Mudeki. But then again, you wouldn't really use Yano Mudeki because her stats are a little bit too low, mainly using her for the hints. Having 9-star sparks is going to be the top priority so that you can be the most versatile with this parents for any Umas. And eventually, over time, when you have an abundance of options, locking in on pinks and whites will lead to the specialized parents. Do know that when you're going to be building on grandparents, their parents, which is going to be the great-grandparents, does not have the blue or pink sparks as long as they have the abundance of white sparks, which can be passed down to the grandparents themselves, which is exactly like I mentioned in this video over here. So once again, please check this out for a more detailed explanation. Now here is going to be an example of a god tier specialized parent with 9-star power and over 20 white sparks with 4 pinks on mount. Specialized parents are the baseline 9-star Umas with the corresponding pink and white sparks, sometimes even the greens for a specific objective. Taking the upcoming champions meet as an example, medium pings with white sparks on skills like medium straights, medium corners, slipstream, tail held high, playtime is over, UI finale. They are all additional sparks to hunt on top of the usual 9 stars. They are technically even stronger than your baseline 9-star blues if you have even better skills, but they are much more specialized, somewhat similar to running a rainbow crit set versus a 4-piece dedicated set. Since you can only borrow a Will Umas 3 times a day for now, the process can be extremely long to fill out the specialized parents for every single scenario over time. So before that actually happens, having a good general parents can help you build your Umas gradually, while at the same time potentially finding your eventual own specialized parents. Now there is one above all, and that is gonna be the god parents, which factors in compatibility, which is gonna be the legendary double circle. For now, don't worry about it because we do not have enough Umas to have that high of a natural compatibility, which is determined by everything from the genders to real life relationship, their typings, and so on. We can raise this by making grandparents and parents win the same races, but given our current resources, it's extremely difficult to get this with 9-star sparks and specialized pinks and whites while making sure your Uma can actually win the UR8. So this is gonna be the 4 sets I'm personally taking every day for my inheritance farming at least 3 times a day. Do know this is gonna be a little bit different from the original guide as well, especially if you have been watching our Evo tip. Number 1, make your first natural 3-star Uma, ideally stamina or power. Borrow a Will Uma to be one of the parent and then use whichever you have. Number 2, once you have your first 3-star power or stamina Uma, borrow the Will Uma parent again with this first 3-star to start making anywhere between 7 to 9-star Umas as the end product, ideally getting one of the 9-star stamina or power mix. I'm currently over here trying to build a 9-star Taigi shuttle for stamina or power. Once you have your own 9-star stamina or power mix, this will be your general grandparent, which will be used with every single horse you own from now on. And now start searching for specialized Uma grandparents to make an even more specialized parent of your own. So once your own specialized parent is complete, you can finally complete the Uma for PP with this specialized parent and your Will's specialized parent. Notice how I only include this with Will parents, which is you're going to be borrowing 3 times a day. The original document recommends to farm 2 of your own general parents with 18-star sparks first, but I think this is rather redundant since most players would not be slamming TPs and farming sparks basically 10 hours a day, so majority of the casuals will only play for the 3 times a run using a Will borrow. Furthermore, I feel like having one general parent with one specialized allows me to farm for a specialized parent at a much faster pace, since I can just focus on one specialized for myself eventually, meaning my final raised Uma will be produced much faster. From a TP perspective, it just feels a little bit more efficient to farm inheritance only with Will friends because it's a massive TP saver when they basically did half the work for you. The alternative is if you're somebody that wants to play Uma Musume for hours and hours and hours on end, then please go ahead and do the white farming method, which you can get for your great grandparents to farm your very own grandparents. And believe it or not, that is pretty much it for the 150-page Uma Musume guide. Like I mentioned, for the more detailed segments, generally speaking, you really don't have to worry about it for now. And you can take a look at these other videos we have on our channel over here to get a little bit more of an understanding for what these stats mean, as well as inheritance farming, so on and so forth. So thank you so much for staying with me on this video, and as I promised, that is pretty much the most important information for you if you're still confused on what to do in Uma Musume. Going forward, we will explore even more specific things such as PvP, SR and SSR cards comparison, how to train for specific Umas, which I have one for Evo Nature, the community PvP events, and so on. Once again, UmaPokke is not gonna be a JP vet, just someone that loves this game so goddamn much and want to share what he has been doing in the process of playing Uma Musume. I think at this point for more than 300 hours. We can learn and grow together as a community, so do let me know what y'all think in the comments below. With that, we'll come to the end of today's content. All the best for our UmaPoos. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Mambo, mambo, お祭りマンボウ、わっしゃいマンボウ、お祭りマンボウ、ダブダブゆらゆらお祭りマンボウ。